Hello, everyone. Welcome, welcome. Welcome to today's webinar. While we wait for the webinar to start, for those of you who are already joining us, please share with us where you're from using the chat function. And I'm your moderator today, Sema Sally, and I work as part of the marketing team here at IIBA. And IIBA is an independent, not-for-profit professional association serving the global business analysis community. A recognized thought leader, IIBA is dedicated to elevating the discipline of business analysis. We provide our global community with relevant tools, resources, and networking opportunities to take control of your career. Hello, hello. Hello from San Francisco, Jamaica, British Columbia. Welcome, everyone. So a few housekeeping items here before we start. If you have any questions during the presentation, please type them into the Q&A section in your webinar controls at the bottom of your Zoom window. And today's webinar recording will be available on our IIBA Webinar Archives page at iiba.org within 10 business days of broadcast. We will also send a link to the recording via email to everyone who has registered for the webinar 1 to 2 days after this webinar. Hello from Texas, New Zealand, from all over the world. Great to see everyone here. From India. And feel free to interact with each other in the chat window. It's always great to see the community connect and chat about the topic of the webinar, or just simply interact with each other and enjoy your time here that you've set aside for yourselves. And any questions, just as a quick reminder again, that you would like to be answered by the presenter of today's webinar, Ellen Mishra, please enter those in the Q&A box. Yes, all participants are muted. So the best way to get your questions over, if you think of any during the webinar, please just put them in the Q&A box, and we will do our best to get to all of them at the end of the webinar.
Yes, Emma, are you able to view my screen? Because someone has said that seeing
Yes.
only the blank screen.
No, I can see the screen. You have exited presentation mode, though. You were previously in presentation mode. Can we get thumbs up for everyone who can see the screen, or just simply let us know in the chat? There we go. Thank you, everyone. So yeah, Ellen, if you can go into presentation mode again, that would be awesome. But yes, we can
Just
definitely
give me a
see the screen.
second. Just give me a second.
Yeah, no problem.
I think now it's in presentation mode.
Yep, it looks great.
Oh, okay.
All right. So we've got a lot of people already who've joined us, and since you chimed in, Ellen, I think this is a great opportunity to it would be a good point and juncture here to introduce you. Today's presenter is Ellen Mishra, CBAP, CBDA, CPOA, AAC, and CCA. He's an author and co-founder of Adaptive US, Inc. He has 27 plus years of professional experience in business analysis, requirements analysis, agile software development, and management consulting. Ellen is the product owner of Succeed, Adaptive's flagship learning management solution. Succeed. spelled Suxeed. He has authored 20 plus books on business analysis and has trained more than 5,000 business analysts around the globe. Ellen has personally guided and helped close to 1,250 plus professionals to get IIBA certified. He has conducted 300 plus workshops in business analysis, requirements management, agile, software project management, and Six Sigma. All right, Ellen, with that, I will pass it over to you. And yeah, have fun, everyone. Enjoy the webinar.
Thank you, Sema. Thank you, everyone, for joining us today. In fact, this webinar got an amazingly high number of registrations. We got around, I think, 2,900 registrations. So I was very intrigued by the fact that people want to hear about others' mistakes. And I said, okay, it's a good opportunity to share many mistakes I did as a business analyst. And I happen to have done so many mistakes as part of my work that just because I have been doing this work for a very long time. So I started playing the role of a business analyst way back in 1996, when the term business analyst itself wasn't really being used that much. So in the beginning, I was called a consultant. Then from a consultant, I became a functional consultant, where I got an introduction into IT business analysis. And from there on, I have been performing this role for Adaptive itself, like between two avatars of Adaptive, the previous one primarily being on process consulting, this one primarily being focused on IIBA certification training. Between the two Adaptive avatars, I have spent around 18 years. Then prior to that, I was with IBM, I was with Infosys, performing business analyst role. So what you will hear me today is mostly some of the major mistakes I did. Minor mistakes are many, and I try to document many of them through a book, which I will share you a link as well. It's called Stories for Business Analysts. And I'm glad that I documented many of these experiences over a period of time. So it's interesting to look back at those mistakes. These mistakes that I'm going to tell you costed the client quite a lot of money. Just the fact that in olden days, clients were very magnanimous and they did not fire me from my job. Otherwise, the amount of loss I made for the client because of my mistakes, anybody would have fired me from the job. But in those days, people were far more magnanimous, and I was allowed to continue as a business analyst even after making so many mistakes. So let's begin today's presentation. I will take a couple of minutes just to introduce Adaptive and IIBA, and then we will delve into the topic. So I see many of you joining from many parts of the world, and which is a nice thing. And I see already there are about 670 plus participants today, and I'm hoping that it might cross 1,000 number as well as we move into the webinar, which is a big thank you from myself, from my team at Adaptive, and from IIBA as well. So always I consider learning as a great way to move oneself forward. And I'm quite hopeful that when you complete this webinar, you will get some pointers about how do you make yourself a much more in-demand, competent business analyst. So two things I want to make sure that you achieve from this webinar. One, how do you become a better business analyst? And all of us want to become better business analyst. And secondly, we also want to be in demand. That means others should look for us. So again, I would put a lot of gratitude to IIBA. This is probably one of the best things that's happened to the community of business analysts. As I said before, maybe around 2000, hardly this term was heard. Today, people understand what is business analysis. There's a lot of respect for business analysts around the world. There's a lot of job openings coming up. Although we still are a bit confused community in the sense the definition of business analyst tends to vary quite a lot, which is a relatively a subject that we should decide and kind of delve into it. Like I always keep saying, business analysis has many facets. Business requirements analyst, which is what I'm going to talk to you largely today, business data analyst, product analyst, strategic analyst. So there can be many flavors of business analysis. And I'm glad that IIB is actually working on them. We already have plethora of certifications from IIBA, like ECBA, CCBA, CBAP, primarily on requirements analysis, CBDA on data analytics, CPOA on product ownership, CCA on cybersecurity. So you can see the thought process, and we as a business analysis community tend to be growing as a field, which is very nice. And also, I would suggest someday we also should kind of make others also realize that even if you are not called a business analyst, you still perform a lot of business analysis tasks. So someday we should be able to de-link the role and the task. And of course, our focus would be on the task and skills. So thank you, IIBA, again for organizing this webinar today and giving me an opportunity to speak to so many prospective business analysts, senior business analysts, and sharing some of my learnings over almost this 30 years of BA career. So obviously, the experiences that I share, most of them are my own experiences. So I had first-hand experience of not performing the BA role very effectively, and I don't blame myself. Please don't think that I am feeling guilty about it. Not at all, because the way we did business analysis was completely, largely self-driven. There were hardly any books, hardly any guidance available in early days of my BA journey. Today, it's a great thing to see so much knowledge available to we business analysts. Uh, One of the great achievements of IIB itself is BA Book, which is a great repository of how to perform business analysis effectively, which is a great thing. Then you have a guidebook on agile analysis, you have a guidebook on data analytics, you have a guidebook on product ownership. So the amount of knowledge that we have been able to codify, share it among the community is really huge. This is unthinkable just 20 years back. So in fact, I very clearly remember requesting some of my senior colleagues to either give their own notes, own books, so that we could read something and learn the subject. That's how we did work. And as I go through the presentation, I will also point to you the way you can avoid making the same mistakes that I did. And I see some others performing as well. So some of the mistakes are from my observation with other senior friends, colleagues, and other business analysts as well. And I'll be happy to take any question that you have at the end of the webinar. Okay, here is something interesting for all of you, those of you who are here today. We are going to give you a coupon code at the end. And if you wish to buy any of our products, services, you can leverage that coupon to get an extra access period for yourself. So this is a nice code. And I love this code because we all are humans and we will make mistakes. So let's not be too worried about making mistakes, because through mistakes we learn. If somebody is totally afraid of making mistakes, they will probably not move anywhere. So please don't think bad about you made some mistakes. Every one of us will make mistakes, but it's always useful to learn from your own mistakes and others' mistakes as well. So this is what I'm trying to do today, is to share some of the mistakes that I made as a BA, and I see other BAs doing, and then learning from others' mistakes, because that's the cheapest form of learning. If you learn from others' mistakes, usually that's not so expensive. If you learn from your own mistake, it's great, because it is something that you have earned for yourself, but it's also very expensive. So I have divided the mistakes into two broad categories. One related to our work, the way we perform our business analysis work. And the second one is all about our job career. That means how do we take our career forward? What kind of mistakes people make in their own professional work career, which is some of them are mine as well. So maybe in the hindsight, I can say this is a mistake that I made, and some of the mistakes I do regret. Some of the mistakes where it personally costed me a lot of money. Okay, so let's go back. Just give me a second. I think the power has gone out, but let me see. It should come back in a minute. I'm just going to turn off the video a little bit. You should be able to see my screen as well. And then once the power comes back, I will again enable the video. So let's start with mistakes in our professional work. So the first mistake that I'm going to tell you is a mistake that I did as a business analyst, rather my entire team. So we were a team of about 140 members. It's a very large team. And you can remember in olden days, we used to have these waterfall type of projects where a lot of people used to work for a very large time. And then we used to deliver something for the client. And this is a mistake that costed us about additional 40 person months of work in a fixed price project. Okay. So just give me a second. I can start the video again. Just give me a second. Yeah, I think it should be on now. So let me narrate the incident that happened in our project. So this was a very large client where we were implementing a modern ERP system. The client had multiple legacy systems handling different lines of business, and these businesses sometimes were acquired from other companies. So those companies had legacy systems. This company had its own legacy system, and management actually had very tough time to understand and take a unified view of how is the business doing. The maintenance cost of these legacy systems were also increasing. So management decided that they are going to move into a more modern unified ERP system. And we were implementing that project for the client. The project went quite well. Client was very nice. We had a great weather. Seattle is a lovely city. So we come close to the UAT phase. And that time we were thinking, how do we present the new solution out to our stakeholders? And in those days, getting licenses, computers, everything was expensive compared to today. So what we decided to print all these new reports into A1 format paper and put them into a conference room and ask stakeholders to come and take a look at these reports. So many business stakeholders came and they really loved it. They said, this is what exactly we asked for. So we were very happy. Then one stakeholder from the legal function came and he looked at these reports and then he said, these are all okay, but they are totally useless for compliance reporting. And this is a financial system that we were implementing. And his intent was very clear. He said, unless you give us reports, which is specified by the legal team, we will not let this system go live because we have to produce and provide these reports to government. And government does not give us any liberty in changing anything in the report. That means the way the old system produced the report, the new system has to produce the financial reports exactly in the same way. But what we were doing, we were listening to these people from the business, and they wanted the reports in a slightly different way. So if those of you who are familiar, there is tax accounting, there is management accounting. So largely we got driven by management accounting reporting instead of tax reporting accounting. Now we had no choice. Okay. So what do we do? So we put another 20 people into the project unplanned, fixed price project, you can imagine. And these 20 people worked for 2 months extra towards the end of the project to fulfill the demand from the legal side. When I look back at the problem and situation, then I ask, why did it happen? So then we realized the fact that the client is a large client with lots of stakeholders, a large division like the stores, they had many stores, employed around 32,000 professionals. Design had 3,000, IT had 1,000 people. The legal team had only 30 people. This is a retail store, doesn't have much to do with retail, I mean, legal. So obviously, they are not going to have a lot of people in the legal team. And because this team was small, okay, so their participation in the project discussions, weekly status meetings, monthly status meetings was very, very low. We also did not involve them because the people from the stores were making a lot of demand. They were demanding, they were coming to the meeting, they were saying, this is what we need. And like the crying baby gets the milk, uh, that's what happened in the project. But we then realized, and I personally realized, that this is not the way to run a project. Even if there is a small stakeholder group, that group's requirements could be very, very paramount, especially if it happens to be a legal function. Nobody wants to go against the legal recommendations because if you do anything against the wishes of legal department, either you are putting yourself into trouble or you're putting your company's CEO into trouble, which is not a very desirable scenario. So this is one great learning. Please do not ignore small stakeholder groups. So please identify them, understand their requirements, and of course, prioritize. I'm not saying every requirement is important, every small group is important, but especially if you have a legal team, uh, do consider their requests and requirements before you implement other requirements. So this is one big mistake. Then the second big mistake that I will talk about, again, another project where I work, and I was solely responsible for this mistake. In those days, as I said before, we were called functional consultants. So obviously, our focus was on the functionality of the solution. And we knew very little about something called non-functional requirements, although we mentioned something like performance or one or two parameters. And then we kind of thought this is okay, everything will be taken care of. So what happened, I'll tell you. So this was again a project for a very large, um, one second, guys. Again, there's a power test today. It's a bit strange. One second, let me turn off the video. Okay. So we were implementing an order management system for a very large um, Japanese client. Okay. So in this place, what happens is um, in the beginning of the month, when you are doing your sales, you sell very few quantity of items. Okay. Um, and then we go live. We have tested this aspect for 20 shipments, 30 shipments, 50 shipments. We have tested it. And we said, okay, the system is ready to go live. And the month begins, everything is smooth, no issues. Then around 20th or 21st of the month, we do a slightly larger quantity transaction. And in those 500 shipments, one shipment serial number is missing. And in those days, we had kind of not so much trust on software. Even today, I doubt anybody will kind of say software is 100% predictable. It's unlikely in that scenario. Software is complex. It can have failure modes. It's very difficult to detect all failure modes in the software. So we corrected it from the database. So we said, okay, we'll correct it in the database. Now the month end comes. Okay. And you see this kind of a spike in the sales. And this is a little unusual, nothing unusual. Actually, if you take a look at many companies, you will see this pattern of sales. In the beginning, it'll be very slow. It'll pick up towards the month end. And on the last day of the month, there'll be a lot of orders that will come in. That's because the salespeople are trying to achieve their target. Same thing with year end, quarter end, you will always see a. That's what happened to us as well. And when we looked at the system, around 5,000 serial numbers are missing. So I remember that night very well. I was there, my client manager was there, one senior gentleman by name Jose Maria Vidal. Then my colleague Gurpreet was there, and it's post midnight, and we're trying to figure out what to do. Okay. And it's not a great situation. We already have asked the distributors to send their trucks to the warehouse. So these trucks have come to the warehouse, and we don't have serial numbers for 5,000 items. These are expensive items. They're covered under global warranty. So if you don't have serial numbers, you are in trouble. And that too, in Spain, where it happened, had a regulation that every sales transaction should be traced to the final product if possible. And since our products carried serial numbers, that means if we don't have serial numbers on the invoice, it is a legal non-compliance. Okay, so what do we do? Gurpreet took about 24 hours to figure things out. And then he fixed the issue manually. And then finally, we released the items from the warehouse. So that issue kind of got resolved at the local location where we are working. But by this time, we have done enough damage to the project. This news spread to other locations as well, like the countries which were supposed to go live with this system: Portugal, France, Netherlands, Germany. All these countries were supposed to go live one after another. And we were the first. In a sense, you can treat us as a guinea pig. So we were the first country to go live. Other countries would go live after us, maybe 3 months, kind of an iterative deployment, if you want to call it. But they heard this news, and then they all flatly refused, saying, we are not going to go live with this system because we can't trust. This happened in Spain. It's likely to happen in our countries because we are bigger, like France, Germany, Switzerland. They're bigger in terms of business compared to Spain. So now what do we do? The entire project got rescheduled by 6 months. And we were about 250 consultants working on this project. So imagine the additional cost the client had to bear because of this extension of the project, which was not planned. Okay. And then when we realized, where did I go wrong? Because I was the BA for this project, I forgot to mention the scalability requirements. Okay. And this is what created the trouble for the client. And in a sense, if I would have captured that requirement, it would have required us to buy a better server because we need a better capacity to handle these many transactions. And that server might have costed us around $50,000 more, like compared to the server that we purchased. But just that $50,000 and lack of the requirement, it resulted in $6 million loss to the client. So what I did, I learned from this exercise that it's very important for us to capture non-functional requirements because these are very hard to change. Please remember, people talk about agility, delivering product in 3 months. These are all good as long as you have figured out your architecture well. If you're just rushing into develop a product without considering non-functional requirements, you're doomed to fail. So please take it from me. So based on this experience, I actually worked on a template, which I will show you, and I will also give you a link where you can download this template. So I called it as non-functional requirements template. I'm going to show you. And in this template, what I did, I actually captured close to 50 non-functional requirements. I actually benchmarked my template with ChatGPT as well, because people are talking of ChatGPT and saying that ChatGPT is the greatest thing that could happen. So I did a benchmarking exercise. ChatGPT still falls around 40% short of what I have written. Okay. So somewhere they must have copied it from our website or something. But it's a great template that you can use. So you can observe here, I have given different categories of NFR, the NFR, the explanation, and where would you generally find them or find this? Does it apply to your own project? And if it applies, is it available? If it is not available, you need to go and check with your stakeholders to figure this out. And in fact, I had one more column, I think here, where I talked about how to test it, how to test this NFR. But this has gone a little bit wrong, so I'm going to fix this issue sometime very soon, because somewhere the sorting wrongly happened. So if you observe, this has around 48 or 47 non-functional requirements mentioned, and you can use this template to make sure that you are not missing out on any critical non-functional requirement. Okay, so let's go back to our presentation, and you can see how much loss I made to my client because of lack of my own knowledge. And I wish all of us become more knowledgeable and we do not do such mistakes. Okay, then the third requirement, let me tell you, which is very interesting, and this is something I wish BABOK also talks a little bit more, which is about implicit requirements. So this is again another interesting incident I will tell you with another project. So we were developing an insurance product for a large insurance provider, and it's an in-house product. That means it's only for us. I was part of the implementation team. And we come to the UAT stage, and that time we present our product to the country stakeholder, country manager. There are many countries which are involved in this project. So one country manager asks us one interesting question. When the insurance is going to expire, will your system send an alert or SMS to the customer? We said no. Then he was a bit surprised and he said, why no? Then we said, nobody said or nobody asked. It's not there in the requirements document. So why would we implement? Then the country manager was a bit puzzled and he said, did you mean this is also something that we should have told you? It's so common sense. But it wasn't common sense for me. No, please understand. Sometimes stakeholders may think that the business analyst knows the domain, and often it may not be the case. And especially if you are in a services organization, you are switching your clients after 6 months. So I have worked in retail, I have worked in manufacturing, I have worked in IT, whatnot. I have worked in professional education, book publishing company, and I really don't worry so much. I mean, most businesses are similar and I can contribute, but I would not have the in-depth knowledge of a domain. It's very unlikely. So this is where I kind of think of a mechanism which we can develop, which is implicit requirements checklist. And I trust what you folks can do in your own company, wherever you work. If you are a set of BAs, group of BAs, you can actually sit down and think about the requirements that is generally considered in the domain. So for the domain, I will show you where I worked for a fairly long time, which is the governance, risk, and compliance. And in our domain, I listed certain commonly expected requirements. And this is where even ChatGPT can be very helpful, because ChatGPT actually can give you a fairly good set of requirements that is applicable to a particular domain. So I have put all these requirements you can see here, and you will find actually one requirement which is called export to PPT, PowerPoint, and this is a dream requirement for me. So that means if we can actually produce PowerPoint presentations from an application, imagine the power of that application, because management wants to see PowerPoints. Okay, I still haven't been successful in this particular requirement, although I have been able to work on requirements where we take things to PDF, to Word, all that has worked. But export to PPT is something which I have not been able to implement with the team that I have. And I did get some product, but it was very expensive, then we could not implement it. But this is an amazing feature. And if you're trying to sell a product in the marketplace and you can build a feature which will export things to PowerPoint, I'm quite sure it will be an amazing product to sell. So this is again something that you can actually create for your client, for your domain, and sit together, use ChatGPT, and make a better one. The templates that I'm going to give you at the end of the webinar are a good starting point. Please don't consider them as the last point. Okay. Then let me narrate another interesting experience. And because of this particular incident, we lost a good client. So we were deploying a project management tool, which was developed by Adaptive itself. We did have some customers for the product, but then we had to abandon the product because of a reason, which I will tell you in the next mistake. So I get a call from this client where this product is being tested for uh, adoption, and if the testing goes well, they will buy the product. So the client manager calls me and says, Ellen, the entire product is down. I was a bit surprised. I said, something can go down. I can understand some form is not working, some report isn't working, but the entire application being down is a very unusual phenomenon. So I rush with my technical help to the client location, and we speak to the people who did testing yesterday. So there were about 5 people who tested the application, and I asked them, what did you guys do yesterday that this situation came? So one of the users said, I deleted all the user accounts. And then I thought, and I asked, did you delete the admin account as well? Because I'm not able to log in into the admin account. The person said, yes. Then I was kind of a bit angry with that person, because why would you delete admin account? What was the need for you to delete the admin account? The answer was very simple. It allowed. Okay. Then I realized it's not the mistake of the person. It's my mistake. If I consider this data to be so vital to my application, I should protect it. Okay, and that was a great realization for me. And again, as I said, we lost a client because of this, because now the client said, I don't trust your application because your user account and your admin account can be deleted by anyone. Then it's a problematic thing. Then we said, okay, well, that was a bad luck. But then I made sure that the application no longer, nobody has the ability to delete certain seed data. That means this data is required for the application to function, and nobody, including administrator, will have permission to delete those seed data. Okay. Then let me tell you the 5th big mistake that I did as a business analyst. And of course, my knowledge in those days was also very elementary, because I hadn't studied Babak or anything. And I was doing things as I thought appropriate. As I said, we developed a project management tool, and this tool got sold to few clients as well. But over a period of time, 4, 5 years time, when we look at the code base of the application, it had become humongous. Okay, and we were spending a ton of time in making even a minor change, because we make some change somewhere, something else breaks. And then when I looked at the application, and of course, because of this, we had to abandon that product because we were not making enough money to support the product maintenance. And when I realized, why did the code base become so big? The reason was there was no consideration of reuse. So we were implementing very identical functionalities multiple times. So obviously you are spending effort. You're also making things very vulnerable, because if you would have made a unified reusable module, it would have been a lot easier to test that module and make sure that everybody, all the business rules are implemented properly in that module. So now instead of having one common module, we have 10 independent modules performing the same thing, but every time there's a difference in behavior, because one module may implement one business rule because some stakeholder found out the mistake, but that does not get into similar modules. So again, as I said, it's a very sad story for me as a business analyst. This was my dream product, build a large project management tool. But then I realized, because of improper requirements and reuse of requirements, the code base had become very large, and finally we had to shelve that product. So these are some of the mistakes that I did as part of my work-related activities. And I'm going to take you to the other side, which is essentially looking at your professional journey as a business analyst, senior business analyst, whatever. The first thing is, a lot of us, including myself, we make ourselves very comfortable in a particular role, location. So I was once offered some time back to head a learning academy. And by nature, I always had the ability to teach. That's why I have probably taught now maybe 15,000 people, maybe more. And the company where I worked, I was like a default backup trainer. So anytime a trainer backs out for some reason, my department head will catch me and say, Ellen, can you deliver this training? And I used to say, yeah, fine, no problem. I know this subject, I can teach. So they were offering me to head the learning academy in a distant city, not too distant, but in a different city. And I was so comfortable in the current city that I refused that offering. And I said, no, no, I'll continue in this location. I'm not going to go to another city. And if I would have moved to that particular location, I probably would have been heading a learning academy, which may be one of the largest learning academy in the world from a corporate point of view. I think even in those days, I'm talking of around 20, 22 years back, we had 300 full-time faculty members in that learning academy. So now I trust they must have 5,000 plus people, because in those days, we were hardly 10,000 people company. But we had a strong focus on making sure that all our consultants, software developers get very well trained. So we had a amazing learning academy. In fact, this company is now probably valued at $100 billion plus, has around 300,000 employees, and a large part of their success I will attribute to the Learning Academy. So again, please make sure that you don't become too comfortable and not think of a change in your current job profile or job location. The second mistake I find with many, many professionals, and sometimes I see very senior professionals getting laid off, from their current job because they have not put in effort to improve their skills. Uh, let's be very clear. The world is ruthless. Okay. It's changing and it's going to value new skills more than old skills. Some of the skills remain evergreen, like your stakeholder management, behavioral skills. They aren't changing that much. But from the methodology perspective, like say those of you who are very familiar with waterfall methodology, if I go back to my clients today, not even 5% projects are being done in that methodology. So if you are not changing, not learning new things that is coming to the market, it's going to be very hard. So please put in some time every month to self-improvement and self-skill enhancement. And the good part is now resources are much easily available compared to olden days. So you have great resources available at a very, very reasonable price, which you can leverage. Then, third thing I always feel some professionals actually don't put in effort to improve their behavioral skills. They always believe that the technical skills will take them through. Uh, but this is a graph which one of my senior had drawn for me. So I remember this graph very well. And it says that the demand on technical skills will taper down as you move up in your career and the demand on your behavioral skills will go up as you move in your career. Okay. So those who don't make that switch at the right point usually will get stuck. So although the above does not talk much about behavioral skills, it has a tiny chapter in it. Please don't ignore those. I personally believe we should have devoted around 100, 120 pages to behavioral skills, like the way we have done it to process skills and techniques skills. The fourth point I will say is some people have a very strange mindset and they do not believe in their personal branding. They think people will recognize their work as such. The world isn't like that. Okay. And you can actually see very clearly even two identical products, one which is branded versus one which is unbranded. The branded product can command a premium of anywhere between 30% to 300%. That's the amount of difference customers are willing to pay for a branded product. Think yourself as a product. We are in the marketplace, no? I am as a trainer, as a product, as a consultant, I am a product. I am in the marketplace to make sure that I get good clients who pay me top dollars. No, that's what I want. So if I want to get those kind of top dollars, the client must believe in me. And one of the ways the client makes it believable for me is to showcase my talent through different branding mechanisms. It could be certification, it could be your activity in IIBA, it could be your activity on LinkedIn. These things matter. I'm sure all of you have a great LinkedIn profile. If not, please spend some time and make sure that you have a good LinkedIn profile, you engage with other stakeholders on LinkedIn. You never know from where you will get a support in a time when things can be tough on you. Okay. The last one I would put is some people refuse to network with other professionals. I know we have to focus on our work, it's important, but it's also important that we know people around companies, okay, the community, different groups, because only through networking we learn more, okay. We also open up our minds, and I'm trusting many of you may be joining BBC in April. If you happen to be there, I am planning to be there. This has been in mind for quite some time. Due to certain restrictions, I couldn't travel to the earlier BBCs. But now, going forward, I'm planning to be present at least once or twice in a year, if possible, and take that opportunity to meet other business analysts, network with other business analysts from whom I have learned a lot. And I trust all of us can share our knowledge and enrich each other through networking. Okay, good. So let me take 5 minutes of the time on introducing Adaptive. I trust many of you know a little bit about us. We have been pretty much visible on social media in terms of IIBA success stories. And last year, we produced 7% global IIBA certifications. And there are about 200 IIBA EPs who provide these trainings. And on average, that means it is 0.5% that comes to an individual company. But we got 7% share, got around 280 certifications done last year. So we pride ourselves in providing high quality content. The type of mentors that you'll get with Adaptive, it's extremely hard. I really doubt anybody else would have those quality of mentors that you can get with other training providers. We have been focused on IIBA certifications from our inception itself. That's what we all do. You can take a look at our website and you can see that all our entire effort is focused on business analysis community. And we have an amazing customer support team, which is really prompt in solving customer problems. Then we also have another amazing product, which is not that well known compared to our certification products. It's called Inner Circle. This is a product which gives you access to expert live webinars, a lot of BA tools, resume preparation, interview preparation, monthly Q&A session, on-the-job mentoring. All this is available as part of Inner Circle product, which is way beyond what we do for our certification training. Again, for our certification training, we do provide 3 wonderful guarantees. One, there is a success guarantee. So as part of success guarantee, we go up to 2 free retakes for our students. Our sessions are guaranteed to run, and there is also a money back provision in case it is needed, but that's probably 1 or 2% cases where we really have to pay you back the money. Otherwise, 98 to 99% students do complete the certification with us. So these are the set of trainers that you will face, you will meet as part of Adaptive. We have one more new person joining us from Australia this year. So we are really selective about whom we take on board. Because we just don't want to dilute the quality of teaching that our trainers can provide to our students. That's why it really has been a very, very select set of trainers, those who have been associated for a very long time with us. And you can actually read about a lot of student stories, how things have changed for them. One particular person's story is very interesting. There's a gentleman by name Raza Vignesh. You can go and search him on LinkedIn. He started more like a low-level consultant in a firm, and now he's a senior vice president. So he works for the SVP office in the role of an associate vice president. And all that has happened in about 7 years' time. And there are many other such stories which we have tried to capture on this particular page. These are all the people that you can find on LinkedIn and connect with them and talk to them as well. So please take a note of this link. This is where you will find the template which I showed you. This is called the business requirements template. that contains your non-functional requirements checklist, implicit requirements checklist, and many other templates within that. So you can download it and use it. And of course, as I said before, this is a starting point, not ending point. You're free to make improvements to the template. So in case you find something missing in the template that you would like us to include in the template, please let me know. We will be happy to update the template and give it back to the community again. In fact, there are plenty of templates, guidelines, checklists on our website available for free. So please leverage them as you do your work. This is the gift that I talked in the beginning. Please make a note of the webinar coupon. It's ADA Web 2402. And if you are registering for any of our course, you can ask for an extra month of access, which is usually charged. So typically we give an access period between 3 months, sometimes 6 months, sometimes longer than that as well. But most products are for 3 months to 6 months. So you get an extra month of access without paying anything extra. That's about it. This is what I wanted to talk to you today. So I'll be happy to take some of your questions. So let me go to Q&A session. Okay. Was there a project manager on the project, a project plan, a charter? Okay, I think maybe this is the question on the first incident that I described. We did have a program manager, project manager. It's not that we did not have, but in spite of that, as I said, sometimes people who make a lot of noise, they get hurt. So that's why you have to make sure that there could be silent stakeholders whom you need to consider. Okay. Mm. Yeah, Judith says, how important is domain knowledge for BA? It is quite important to have domain knowledge. Just that in certain types of organizations, it's very hard. Like the type of organization where I worked, um, we were supposed to work in multiple domains. So we have to catch up on domains very quickly. Um, so that's hard given the fact that the way the company operated, it expected us to move domains. Secondly, I'll tell you, sometimes not having a domain experience is also good because you can ask many stupid questions. Okay, because when you become part of an organization, you almost become like a frog. That means you accept the limitations. You don't question the limitations. And I have seen it often. People who are inside the company, the process is inefficient, but they have got acclimatized. So when you come without any preconceived notions, it's a lot easier for you to question what is happening within the organization. Yeah, Miro board is something that I see a lot of people using. I think it's a great tool you can use. Sanon has asked, how can we access the non-functional template? I have given you the link. So I'll show you the link again. Or maybe I can copy the link in the chat as well. Just give me a second. Where is it? It's here. Sorry. Maybe I'll minimize this little bit and I will go and put the link for you. Where is the link? This one. I'm going to copy this link and put it into the chat window. You can take it here. Where is the chat? Yeah. So I put the link in the chat so you can copy there. Okay. Then Let me go back and take a look at the other questions that has come. 1 second. Okay, then this is okay. Mistake number 3. Okay. This is something interesting. Somebody asked, how do you handle silent stakeholders? Uh, Maybe one technique that works quite well in this situation is something called stakeholder charter. And in the stakeholder charter, you can actually make it very explicit, asking stakeholders to raise objections before. That means they should not be raising objections at the very end of the project where it becomes hard to take their requests. Uh, Amar has one good question. Um, Sometimes some BAs may have a technical background. I'm not saying you will not have technical background, but if the application is complex, then it might make sense to get help from technical expert. Our forte is not designing solutions. Our forte is in specifying requirements for a good solution. That's what I would suggest. Okay, for a simple system, maybe what we know could work. But if it's a very complex system, then I think take help of technical expert. Okay. Thank you, Helga. No problem. Okay. Chuang has one good question. See, as a business analyst, it's important for in agile projects to prioritize requirements very well and work on the requirements which are in near implementation cycle. Okay, so that is something I would say. Secondly, in agile projects, I would request you to put bit more emphasis on non-functional requirements in the beginning. See, after the non-functional requirements are defined well, the architect has designed the solution to cater to the non-functional requirements. Functional requirements can be done quite well in iterative manner. Ah, okay. Someone has asked, Preeti has asked one question. What are things that we need to take care as a beginner? Learn the process, learn the tools. I think these are two main things that would be expected from a new BA. You're not expected to manage other BAs, but as you kind of grow older, you may have a team of BAs uh, whom you need to mentor, groom. But in the beginning, learn to perform your work well. Then, how to improve domain knowledge? That's a good question. Um, One good source I'll give you. This is called APQC. Go to apqc.org. Start with a domain description document. They give you free domain description document and then leverage that document. We also have a book called Handbook of Business, which we created from the APQC framework. That's a good reading for a beginner. Then today, nowadays, there are a lot of domain institutes as well. We have been kind of thinking of delving into domains, but that's a big subject. So we don't know how many domains we can get in. But I believe an institute which can provide domain training is a good option. Okay. Hey, Mustafa, good to see you. Yeah, Mustafa says if BA makes mistake, who is supposed to catch that? Stakeholders will catch. Somebody has asked, do you have installment options for your trainings? Of course, we do have. Talk to our customer support guys. Okay, Mahesh has a good question. AI is going to impact our work. Make no mistake. Okay. Like we learned Excel to do our data analysis work. Okay. From calculator, we move to Excel. From Excel, we will probably move to AI. It's a big jump, but it is a jump we have to make. I think that's all the time we have, Sima. Or do you want me to continue with few more questions?
Hi, Ellen. Well, we've reached the top of the hour, so to be respectful of everyone's time here, I think it would be a good idea to wrap it up.
Okay, I think then thank you all. Whatever questions I have not answered during the webinar, I will take stock and I will definitely send you a written answer. Don't worry about it. Give us about a day's time. Within that time, we will give. Because IIBA will probably share this data with us by tomorrow. And then as we get within another day's time, we will respond to your queries. Thank you all for joining us today, and it's great having all of you here today. Those of you who are joining BBC in April, I'll be very happy to meet you in person there. Thank you so much.
Thanks, everyone. Have a wonderful day, and thank you, Ellen.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.